Monster Trucks Monster Value. The All-Star Monster Trucks return to the Maverick Center February 10th and 11th. Affordable fun for the whole family, plus a free pit party before each show. Get tickets now at MaverickCenter.com.
How the heck are you? Good to be with you. Thank God it is Friday. We have got the Brooklyn Nets in town tonight to take on your Utah Jazz. No Kevin Durant, but also no John Collins yet. And I'm curious where you come down on this. Do you want John Collins on the Utah Jazz? Because the Jazz, according to our NBA sources and team sources, were pretty close to a deal. They thought they had the framework of a deal done, and Atlanta does not want to include draft compensation. That is the sticking point in this deal. If you follow me on Twitter, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show, you already know that the Jazz and the Hawks are talking, and they have been talking for what's going on a year at this point about John Collins. The current sticking point is John Collins makes on average $25 million a year, and Danny Ainge wants a first and a second round pick to offset that salary. Essentially, hey, I'm willing to pay John Collins that money, but in order for me to take that contract, I also want you to give me a first and a second, and the Hawks have been hesitant to do that. They have the compensation to do that, but again, they don't want to give that up to make a trade. So here's the question. Who's the third team that makes that deal work? Well, again, I was told by NBA sources yesterday, the Phoenix Suns have shown a willingness to get back involved in this. As we told you earlier in this process, the Suns wanted to be a third team in this deal because they wanted to land Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt. That kind of morphed into, hey, we'll send Malik Beasley to Atlanta. Atlanta will send Bogdan Bogdanović to the Phoenix Suns, as well as Jared Vanderbilt. The Utah Jazz will wind up with John Collins from Atlanta and Dario Saric from Phoenix, a first from Phoenix and a second from Atlanta. Jake, that makes a heck of a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it checks everyone's boxes. I mean, clearly Phoenix wants shooting and athleticism in this deal. That's kind of what they're looking for by all accounts. And I look at the John Collins situation in Atlanta, and it's not a great one right now. You know, I think Atlanta has drama. I think the Trae Young, DeJounte Murray dynamic is rather interesting right now. I mean, they on the floor, it's fine. Like, they play together fine, but it just doesn't seem like they love being teammates or really have that chemistry or cohesion you'd like to see in the locker room. So to me, I mean, this trade makes a lot of sense by all accounts. I mean, it checks Phoenix's boxes. Obviously, it's going to go ahead and check Atlanta's boxes. And for Danny, we're just waiting on this draft compensation. And I understand why he wants draft compensation. I get it. I mean, he wants ultimate flexibility and decision-making power. And that's how you attain that, through draft picks and through stockpiling. So to me, I think I understand why Danny's asking for it. But I also think that you have to know the line. You have to know the limit, because to me, you've got a lot of draft capital already. And let's say, you know, you are so stubborn that the deal doesn't happen. Just as an example, I'm not saying that that's the case, but if that were to happen, if this deal were to fizzle out, I'm not sure that also feels great either. I'm not so sure that I'm that committed to yet another draft pick where I wouldn't want to make a John Collins deal, because I think that John Collins can turn into something pretty effective for this team. So maybe it comes down to what Danny thinks of John Collins at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think the difference for John Collins, and here's exactly why I like John a lot. He brings you a physical presence at the four that you clearly do not have. You do not have a power forward on this roster who can be your nightly power forward. You're really not even starting a power forward, if we're being honest. I mean, on a nightly basis, you're starting Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt. You're starting guys that really are not typical fours in the NBA. John Collins brings you the ability to scale, because you could see that there's development there, especially with the three-point shot. He brings you a frame that allows him to be a dominant rebounder. And I think you also see that you can develop him into a better, more willing and able defender, which is his biggest weakness, if we're being honest. He struggles to keep guys in front of him. But it's a footwork issue, as it's been explained to me. And the Atlanta Hawks are not in a position where they are doing a high level of development of their young guys. And let's not make any mistakes. John Collins is young. I believe he's 25 years old. there's a lot of upside in that body on John Collins. That's why I like him so much. I like him so much as well is because Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, and Walker Kessler, those are a bunch of big bodies that are highly skilled.
Yeah.
It allows you then to focus on, your younger guys. It allows you to continue to fill in gaps. And when you go out into either free agency or you go out and make another trade, it means that you can focus on a dynamic wing to put into this lineup. And if you're able to do that, now you are really a contending team. But if you are not going to rebound, and this Jazz team has struggled to rebound effectively, John Collins checks that box. He can shoot the three. He's a matchup problem on the other end. Again, I understand his defense needs to improve, and it will. But he gives you positional flexibility. And if you're able to get another first-round pick in this coming draft, that's just a cherry on top of the sundae, in my opinion. Jake, I think it makes all the sense in the world to go and get John Collins.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think your point about his age, I think, is my favorite point in the whole John Collins conversation. Because if this guy was closer to 30, let's say that John was like 28, 29, I really think that would make him unattractive at that point. But because he's 25, I think there's a lot of development that can still take place. And that, to me, is what's exciting. I can already picture on the floor, and I don't know if it's Mike Conley or whoever the hell the point guard's going to be in the pick and roll situation for this team over the course of the next 2 years. But whoever that is, I can already see them playing pick and roll and getting the lob game going again and kind of creating that threat within their offense, because it's not really a threat right now in their offense. I look at that. I look at John's ability to run the floor, John's athleticism, John's energy, and those are the things that I like. But the things that I don't like are his lack of defensive ability. I mean, he can be physical with guys, but make no mistake about it, this guy is not some premier defender. I mean, this guy has work to do defensively in his game. And I do think that David Fizdale and company can get him to be a good enough defender. Because that's always been the conversation, right? Whether it's been John Collins, DeAndre Ayton, like any of these guys that, we've talked to you about or mentioned, the conversation's always been that these guys have been really good offensive players, but defensively they struggle. And the conversation is, okay, we don't need you to be a defensive player of the year. I don't need you to be Rudy or Draymond or whoever you want to point to.
Not at all.
I just need you not to get beat one-on-one. I need you not to be a liability on the defensive end. And if that can be the case and you can give me 20 and 10 every night or a little more than that, then you're good. You're good. This trade works. So that's why I say John, to me, is a good fit.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the terms of John Collins' contract and you see, again, you look at, this is from Spotrac.com, you look at his age, he is in his 25-year-old season. You'd have him at 26, 27, and potentially 28 years old. He's owed just short of $80 million left on the deal that he signed, a 5-year, $125 million deal with Atlanta. Those numbers work very well, and if you're able to add a 1 and or a 2 as part of that deal, I think that makes a lot of sense. And then you look at the deal that we've talked a lot about, and now the newest incarnation, according to NBA sources, this is what that deal would look like. The Jazz would end up with John Collins, Dario Saric, a first from Phoenix, a second from Atlanta. Phoenix would get Bogdan Bogdanovic and Jared Vanderbilt, and the Atlanta Hawks would end up with Malik Beasley, Talon Horton-Tucker, and Jay Crowder, who's out on an island right now. This makes a lot of sense from a basketball perspective, in my opinion. And again, I go back to John and I go back to his contract, and I just don't think it's that arduous, especially when you look at what this deal does for the Jazz. I think, one, it allows you to finish the year with an expiring contract of Dario Saric at the power forward, and then you're locked in with John Collins. So it gives you time in non-leveraged games because, let's be honest, whether the Jazz make the playoffs this year, I don't know that that's of consequence at all, frankly. But going forward the next 2 years, you really need your team to grow. You need your team to become competitive, and I think it does. And what's interesting is we've been talking about this deal, I don't know, I mean, certainly in the near term for well over a month, 6 weeks at this point. Mm-hmm. This deal was alive in the summer window last summer. We talked about this, and you look at guys like The Athletic with Shams reporting, essentially this same deal. that this is what the Jazz are working on. This is what the Jazz are after.
Yeah.
Shams said the Utah Jazz have been the most engaged team recently on a potential Collins trade. The Jazz have two pieces in Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt that could be of interest to the Hawks. I think that makes a lot of sense. And if you look at what we've reported, I think the Jazz are, as it was explained to me yesterday, I think the Jazz are very close to making this deal. Mm-hmm. And if the Suns step back in, and I think they will, and I would point out their new owner was in Phoenix last night.
Yeah.
At that game, his first game he was attending, you can see that the Phoenix Suns are ramping up the level of urgency. You can see that the Phoenix Suns know they have to make a deal. And it was great that they got Cam Johnson back last night. He looked fantastic, but you're still largely without Chris Paul and Devin Booker for the last month or so. You don't look great right now. You're struggling to win games because you're not getting consistent minutes and not getting consistent performances. And this Jay Crowder situation in Phoenix has got to come to a head. If you wind up getting rid of Jay Crowder and you can bring in guys like Jared Vanderbilt and Bogdan Bogdanovic, and I agree, Bogdan's making a lot of money, but that's a guy who solves a lot of your problems. Bogdan Bogdanovic is a guy who makes Devin Booker and Chris Paul better. That's a guy who a lot of teams are chasing right now, and I think the Suns have the ability to trigger that deal. But I think this also comes down to James Jones and the Suns' willingness to give up a first-round pick, and they have not been willing to do that. And it's very interesting that the Phoenix Suns, who have all of their future draft capital, are not willing to give up a first-round pick to unload this Jay Crowder situation. I think that is such a mistake. You have a guy that's of value in this situation to Atlanta, and you have all of your draft capital. It makes too much sense not to do that deal if you're the Phoenix Suns. And Jake, that's probably, frankly, the biggest reason why this deal wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Is because it makes too much sense. It's too easy to say, yeah, we should do that.
Too easy to rubber stamp this one, right? It fits too well. I think, the only thing I say about Phoenix's unwillingness is Phoenix has built this team through the draft. I mean, you look at the core of this team, and yeah, it is, Devin Booker, it is DeAndre Ayton, right? It is Cam Johnson, right? So like you have these pieces that you've really, got through the draft, and I understand the unwillingness, but at the same time, I agree with you. Jay Crowder is a problem for this team. Jay Crowder is a wasted seat on the bus, if you will. He is a
$10 million wasted seat on the bus.
Yeah, and I think the tragedy in it is he helped you win a championship, or helped you not win a championship, but helped you make an NBA Finals appearance, and now he's just here like, yeah, all right, cool, not really wanting to play for you guys, like just sitting here waiting around. And yeah, other teams do want him. So to me, it's like, yeah, you have plenty of draft capital if you're the Suns. Like, you have enough. I'm not saying you've got an over-the-top amount, but you have enough where, including one of your first rounders to get this deal done, to bring in some fresh blood into the locker room, like some new voices, some new personalities. Book is coming back. A lot of people right now are surmising, again, rumorville in the NBA, right? But a lot of people feel like, okay, yeah, Book's been out, but what does that mean? He's been resting, right? The miles aren't on the legs. So maybe this time out turns into, hey, Book carried the Suns into the playoffs and into a deep playoff run. But again, I don't believe a deep playoff run happens with this team unless you go and get a Bogdan Bogdanovic, unless you go and get talent.
And, the thing is, you're playing a guy in Dario Saric. He's currently your starting power forward, and you're playing him 8 minutes. If you can flip that guy into an asset and he ends up making the money work, why would you not do that? It just makes too much sense. And you look at how they play right now. They get Cam Johnson back last night. He gives you 19. You're going to get Devin Booker back here probably in 10 days.
Yep.
That's 20 points a game. Chris Paul, I guess he's dealing with a hip now. He didn't play last night. And they still wind up beating a pretty frustrated Brooklyn Nets team. This trade makes too much sense. So, you know what? I look at this and I think this deal will happen. If I had to put a percentage on it, I think it's probably 70-30 that the Jazz make this deal happen.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of what is Danny Ainge asking for. And if he gets a first-round pick, I don't see how it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. I truly do not. I think if you get that first-round pick, I could see, listen, this is not an insignificant amount of money with John Collins. It truly is not. And as it was explained to me yesterday, the Jazz want 2 picks so that they have some more leverage, because you're taking a big deal. You're taking almost $80 million back on your books into the future. That's $80 million into the future that you're taking back. And I think he's got, I think he's got like $11 million left in comp this year. Like this is almost $100 million deal in one guy. I agree. You should get draft compensation back for that. And I just don't know what it's going to take. I don't know if you're going to have to include an extra player in that. I don't know if Phoenix is going to have to sweeten the deal a little bit. I truly don't know. But I believe that there is a deal to be done. And in all my years covering this league, when there's a deal to be done that benefits everybody involved, that deal generally gets done.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think the conversation, is, hey, does this deal make sense for everyone? It clearly makes sense for everyone. The conversation is just how much is Danny going to squeeze out of this deal? And I think that
yes,
we've been talking all week about how there is some. Maybe intimidation's a little strong, but there is some, hesitation when you're doing business with Danny because of what he's done to the league. I mean, again, I need to remind you guys of what happened over the summer, right? Where the Gobert deal happens, the Donnie deal happens, and then the Kevin Durant deal did not happen because the Nets wanted a Gobert-sized package or more for Kevin Durant. So when
package.
Package. So when people are dealing with Danny Ainge, they're like, hey, we don't want to get fleeced, or we don't want to make a mistake here. It's almost like that walking on eggshells feeling where you're like, damn, dude, like, yeah, I'm looking at this thing on my whiteboard in my GM's office, and it looks good. It makes sense. We like it from a money standpoint. We need Bogdanovich. We could, Jared Vanderbilt can do some nice things for us. Like this deal makes sense. But there's just that little bit of anxiety or hesitation around what are we not seeing here? What are we missing? What is Danny going to get that we're not identifying that's going to come back and kick us in the bag in 6 months? Like, that, to me, is what the hesitation is.
Yep, all of our NBA talk here on the Monty Show is presented by our friends at Quick Quack Car Wash. Make sure you get that car washed. Got a little more snow on the roads this morning here in Utah. No matter where you are, there's a Quick Quack Car Wash near you. All of our friends in Phoenix, yes, there's a Quick Quack Car Wash near you. They're just good people to do business with. I love that you don't have to deal with a computer. You get to actually, and I know it's crazy, deal with a human being. And I like that as a guy who buys a membership every month from Quick Quack Car Wash, I roll up, they put my license plate into their little iPad. Hey, Monty, how are you? Here's your dashboard wipe. Thanks. Thanks for coming. Good to see you. Like, they're overly friendly. They're really professional. They dress nice. I just really like doing business with Quick Quack Car Wash because it's easy. And by the way, the other thing is there's nothing worse than sitting in a car wash line and it's half an hour before you even get up to the front. At Quick Quack Car Wash, it's 5, maybe 7 minutes. Even when there's a line, you're in and out of there quick at Quick Quack Car Wash. All right, let's get your thoughts on this. Talking Utah Jazz and this situation with John Collins. Again, if you're just getting up this morning, I see we got a bunch of people who just tuned into the show. The very latest is the Jazz and the Hawks, as it was described to me, have had recent substantive conversations around John Collins, and Atlanta is hesitant, and I understand why, to include their own first-round pick and John Collins, but they are looking for a third team. Both are, and I am told that the Phoenix Suns are willing to get back involved in this deal. We told you about 6 weeks ago that the Suns had, really wanted to make a trade in early January, but they could not get a deal done because they did not want to include a first-round pick, so they kind of moved on to other trades. Well, as you know by now, the Suns have not made another trade, and I think that's why they're willing to get back in here, and it solves a lot of problems that the Suns have. I would, if I'm a Jazz fan, I would be excited about John Collins, but let's see what you guys say as Jazz fans. What's up, Ryan P? First one in this morning. Good to see you, JP Shanahan. Darren Tibets, what's up?
Hey, guys.
Yusuf, he just wants to know if anybody drinks almond milk. It's all we drink, Yusuf.
Yeah, that's what I drink.
I don't drink regular. I don't drink animal milk of any kind. I drink almond milk, unsweetened original. To which Mark Hales says, what? You drink fake milk? Well, it's not actually fake milk. It's almond milk, sort of. Kurt Myers says, Mark, I'm with you on that. Okay. JP Shanahan says he drinks almond milk all the time.
Yeah.
How did we get into almond milk? That's crazy. James Knight, how the heck are you? James is a member of the show. I'm at 20 minutes on the cold water plunge. Are you really? Why are you doing 20 minutes? That's cool. Good on you. What's up, KJ? Good to see you. James Jensen says, Mike Conley has been my favorite player since the rebuild. I wish him the best. Hey, man. I think Mike Conley's a guy that, and still I maintain that the Clippers are his best option, but you're going to see, this is a huge night in the NBA, by the way.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people are paying attention to it. You should be watching the Dallas Mavericks right now because they have Miami in Dallas at 5:30 tonight. And Dallas is really frustrated. That's a team that is desperate to make a deal. I think Mike Conley takes a lot of the load off of Luka Doncic. It takes Luka off the ball, which I think is much better for Luka Doncic. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see. That Miami-Dallas game is absolutely one you should be keeping your eye on. And again, Knicks and Hawks tonight, that's also 5:30 in Atlanta. I'd absolutely be watching that game.
Yes.
And if you don't have League Pass, you should have League Pass.
Yeah.
You should get League Pass.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you that those two games are big games for the Jazz. You've got to watch how those teams play. I also think it's really interesting that Cam Reddish has been now linked to the Lakers. Is Cam Reddish a good move for the Lakers?
It's not like some transformative move.
It's
You're
not.
just a guy.